Item 2, we do have a form. Item 2 is cash reimbursements, reimbursement of $285, 52 cents to Carla Eden, attending the Main Street Alabama Conference in August. Any concerns surrounding that? All right, we have some abatements. I believe these are actually on our consent agenda. Item A is abatement by identified nuisances group 2024-03, as well as the abatement by identified nuisances group 24-01, which are major structures. We're good on that?
Sure.
Is she here? All right, believing that she's here, Jennifer Green will have a presentation on the economic impact of recreation trails in Capital County. Let you take the floor.
Thank you so much. And I apologize for being late. Just pass one of these around. Okay. All right, I'm going to give a little background first. So I appreciate y'all having me here tonight. Our center does a lot of work with the city of Anniston, and I appreciate your support and what our center does. One interesting thing, so tonight's presentation is about trails. But one important thing I want you to all think about as we go through this presentation is how else we can use the methodology in this for other city assets. So as we're talking about geofencing and economic impact of trails, it's not just the economic impact of just trails, this presentation is, but it can be the economic impact of a lot of different things too. So, but this particular study, what we did was we looked at the recreation trails in Calhoun County. There are many trails, you'll obviously know, but we looked at the Chief Lodiga, the Camp McClellan Horse Trails, the Coldwater Mountain Bike Trails, and then McClellan Multi-Use Trails. Specifically because those are different types. And we collected, we've had infrared counters on the trails for about 5 years. We had intercept surveys going, and then most recently we used some geofencing to quantify that visitor number. And then using that information, the spending from the intercept survey and the visitor data, we estimated the economic impact. And so, okay, as I said, these are the trails, even though that's not inclusive of all the trails, but they represent a number of different types of trail. And so our survey was approximately this one was 34 questions. And we had a really good experience with it. We found that on the trails, people are very passionate about the recreation. And so if something is if you're doing something in support of that recreation type, people tend to fill out the surveys. So we had students giving paper surveys, and we also had a QR code. It's the next one. We had about 453 total surveys on all the trails. According to the intercept survey, we kind of broke out the number of in-county visitors and out-of-county visitors for each type. And then most in-county, this was just on the intercept survey, because we're gonna look at the same data on the geofencing. So, and those are the estimate spending. I will say of all of them, and I just got back from a presentation at the Gulf State Park at the coast. These spending amounts are very in line with what we are seeing in other places, on other trails. The majority of money spent, people will come and spend money on either the fuel to get there or going out to eat food and beverage after. One big difference, trails have different spending types, but the different trails bring different user groups. And so when building trails or any kind of recreation amenity, that's important to keep in mind, okay? So, I don't know how many of you have heard of Placer AI. It's geofencing. It was originally, I think, probably military started, but it's used, big box stores use it, even within their stores. It's used to study consumer behavior, like where a customer goes 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after. And what it does is, it does sound kind of big brotherish, but what it takes is each of us on our cell phones have, there's a 16-digit number, identification device number. We don't know what it is, but they do. And so when that cell phone, or the FBI does too, so when that cell phone pings, all it's looking at, it doesn't have any of your personal information. Zero. All it is pulling is that device ID, where that device is currently, and where that device is located most often at night. That's how it gets your visitation. So if you're geofencing and say you have a 404 area code phone number, it doesn't matter if it's 404. If it is staying in Calhoun County most nights, that's where it's originating from. But it gives no personal information. So the demographics, how it does that, it pulls the demographics from the zip code of where that phone resides most often. So next one. So this is just kind of a short and sweet thing about geofencing. We've used it on festivals. We've used it on several different things. Big thing is, especially downtown, you can't geofence a courthouse. You can't geofence government buildings. So if there is a festival or something where a courthouse is in the center, that kind of makes it more difficult. But we're finding a lot of different uses for it. And this presentation, Jackson has it, so y'all are welcome to have it after I'm done presenting. Okay, next one. So this is kind of hard to see, and I apologize for that, but thank you, Jackson. I wanted you to see the level of data that comes out of that platform. So this is the visitor origination data. So it's telling me, and this is all that it tells me about the visitors, is it tells me, I can't remember, this was the Camp McClellan Horse Trails. So there were 278 total visits from devices in the city of Anniston. But not only does it give me that by zip code, but it gives me the year-over-year change. And one thing that was interesting when we were looking at the Camp McClellan Horse Trails is that they had, we'll get into this in a minute, but I wanted y'all to see this level of data that we get. You can go to the next one. They had about 6,044, this is for 2023, they had about 6,000 visitors. Out of all the different, there were 10 different states, but what was interesting was Mississippi was not one of those states, not a single one. And so from a land management marketing standpoint, that tells them, hey, we need to market to equestrian groups in Mississippi if we're not having income. You know they have them. So it kind of shows you where people are coming from and maybe some pockets you're missing. But these were the geofencing results. So the Camp McClellan horse trails, 6,000 total visits. McClellan multi-use, approximately 27,878. The Coldwater Mountain Bike Trails, 30,436, and the Chief Ladiga Trail, 49,043. And those percentages of in-county and out-of-county are in line with what we found from the Intercept survey. You can see it ranges from 10 to 32 different states. And what we did was on the trail, when you geofence something, what I actually did was I took the shape file from the map of the Chief Ladiga Trail, added 20 feet on either side, and sent that to Placer for a custom POI. So when we geofence that, we're not getting people's backyards. We're not getting storefronts. That is something that is very important when you're doing this, is making sure you understand exactly where you are fencing. And so these people, their shoes were on those trails for 10 minutes or more. We know that. Okay, next one. So the next slides go into the economic impact analysis, and that's kind of like the really boring part. We use the input-output model, and we can go through these. We use in-plan, but no, you can stay here. Thank you. So I think in economic development, one of the big things that we don't do a good job of telling the story of is what an investment means to the whole economy. Whether it be trails, whether it be an industry, whether it be a youth center, whether it be small business, whatever it may be. But to simplify, the direct effect in economic impact is, say Jennifer the tourist comes to Anniston, spends her money on a hotel room. That's the direct expense. You can go to the next one. Then that hotel uses its money to hire Sam the concierge. That's indirect. And then Sam the concierge then uses his household income to buy groceries for his family. And that's the induced expense. And so as a city, all of the things you do, whether it be trails, whether, like I said, other different things, you may not have a large quantity. They serve different populations, but they have an impact on your whole economy. And so these were the findings of each of the trails, the economic, the total economic output. So the Camp McClellan was 1 million. The McClellan multi-use was 2.7. And this is just based off visitor spending. This is not any of the infrastructure that y'all have put into the trails, which has been substantial. This is just visitor spending. And then we've got the cold water, 3.7 million, and the Ladiga, 2.2 million, with a total for the county of about $9.7 million. And you can go to the next one. The biggest caveat with geofencing is it does not register international visitors because of international cell laws right now. So, and then that's fine. But we appreciate y'all letting us do this research. This is something we really want to use in future research, geofencing. I know there's a lot of small business applications. I was just meeting with my graduate research assistants today to talk about how can we use this in other facets. Real estate, how can we use it in healthcare? Different things like that. So if y'all have any ideas at all, please let me know. But right now we're using it in outdoor recreation. We've geofenced a couple of festivals downtown, and it's really surprising how many, you think you know an area, but then you look at this data and it's kind of mind-blowing. So, any questions?
I do have one question.
Okay.
Was there any additional data of where these people are spending the money within the county once they visit these trials?
Yes. So in the geofencing, and that's something we want to drill down to more as well, it gives like the most common where they were 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after. And so a lot of that is your retail and your restaurants. Most of it we see as local restaurants. It gives like the top for the majority right now. What we're seeing is the top for the majority. I would really, from a small business perspective, that's the next iteration of this I want to go into, is really drill down into exactly what small businesses are they visiting. Because this software, like I said, originally, I think it originated with Big Box, and it hasn't advanced to being able to get down to the small business that I'm seeing yet. And that's where I think you as leaders, that's where you want to see it. That's where I want to see it. It's not just who goes to a Walmart and, the big box stores, but who goes to the small businesses associated with these trails. A lot of the gas stations, it will pull up the gas stations. And I'm happy to share the whole report of what came out of the geofencing. So you can see, because you can separate it between retail, service order. There's a lot of different options, but it's very telling as far as like the gas stations that the people at the horse trails use. There are a lot of gas stations on there because they're fueling up, their generators and everything.
So it gives a specific location?
Yes.
I would just be curious to know, when people are leaving these trails, what retail areas or what restaurants in the city of Anniston that they are more, apt to
Cold
go
coffee
to.
is one.
That's good.
It came out, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, so there are a lot of local. I would like to see as a researcher more detail into the local. We just haven't looked at that yet. But cold coffee, there are a number of them, and I can share. I'll send you them. Yeah, because that's another aspect of why there or why here, or especially if you're a small business owner and you want to locate, with y'all having the expansion of the Chief Ladiga, that's the prime opportunity for small business owners to
few years ago, most of us went on a tour of the Center for Domestic Preparedness, and they told us that they took buses of these students, not to Anniston, but to Jacksonville. And I would just like to know, how could we get them to come to Anniston?
Well, see, that's another thing that I was talking to someone about, and that's exactly what we're talking about. How can you as a city better market your city on these trails and have those people come off the trails into your city? And I think I have a lot of ideas on that. And from what you said at the CDP, I mean, my daughter was out there at FEMA at a training thing, and she was telling me how many people were there from how many all over the place, and they had nothing to do. And I'm like, what? You know? So we got to figure out that part. But I think there is a lot of potential there. But,
The Backcountry Horsemen of America, I've been talking with them and working with them for years and years and years about these horse trails. And their point was, to have a horse, you've got to have money. It's not a cheap thing. I noticed there that they spend more money per person, but there's not as many of them because not everybody has a horse.
Right.
You know?
exactly.
And they're trying to expand, and they need more trails, they say, to attract more people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all very interesting.
Yeah. And it's amazing what people will spend on a bicycle.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't, but you know. Or we looked at rock climbing at Cherokee Rock Village. What people will spend on rock climbing, I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing. But you start looking into all these different recreation bikes, and but I think what we are lucky about where we are in the state is that we are in a beautiful, geographically located place. We have a lot of wonderful outdoor amenities all around us, and so I appreciate all that y'all have done. Not just, I don't live in Anniston, but I come and walk on the McClellan trails a lot, and I appreciate it.
What's up with us?
But keep in mind, I want us to keep in mind, she said something that's key, especially with the CDP. Keep in mind, we have instructors out there sometimes. Those instructors, they live in Jacksonville. So when they get those buses, those instructors may say, because of the place they know in Jacksonville, this is where we're going to go. But I think that's why we got to go on marketing and say, we got something to closer, because when we look at what's happening at Cane Creek Restaurant, if you go at that lunchtime, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes.
Because we're marketing, we let them know, like keep reminding them, open up that Saturday hours out there, so that's going to get another thing. But marketing is going to be key how we get them there. Because again, I remember Mark Spaulding, when he was here, he actually had a little club in Weaver, so those guys would market, so they would ride down to the little club down. So marketing, that's why we're using this geofencing and other things, so that's how we market to get people to understand what we got here that's close. And I think that the Cane Creek Restaurant has done a great job of doing that.
Right.
And getting them there, and we just got to get more out there to that, especially when the trails start coming in. Have some type of marketing tools out there like the Dr. Trail, have some things out there so they can get to it. Those are the things that we need to start planning for right now. That's why it's good to understand this and using this data that we're getting, we can plan for it better.
And one idea I had, Mr. Folks, was maybe we could geofence some youth sports events.
Yes.
And see how we could use that, because you get a lot of outside visitation from that, and how we can market the city from those events as well. So.
Well, you know, that's a good point, Stephen, what you said, because the training numbers, the last set that we got for our hotel feasibility package was, you know, the numbers are getting slow, getting back up pre-COVID. And you know, with the chief bringing in as part of training numbers. But yeah, you're right, there used to be the shuttle vans that would go from CDP to heroes out there in the area.
Jennifer, can you speak at all to, based off the data that you're receiving, what the extension of cold water into downtown means, particularly when you tie it into the spur that already carries you to McClellan, and how you might reach a CDP or a FEMA group that, you know, if we put some bikes, you know, I know we did that VO thing at one point, didn't really take off, but something like that, folks could get in, haul and bring them in, you start to open doors. I've been on a lot of those training things too. I don't always want to get back on that bus with everybody I just spent all week with, so having a bike or something like that I could ride into town
And
and find
knowing
my
where
own
you
thing.
could just go get one.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's the next step in all of this, is we're looking at, we're using it on the economic impact for the museum. We're geofencing on the museum. And looking at that as well. I mean, they collect a lot of primary data, but I think this really gives you, like, how long somebody typically stays there, how many times, you know, this particular device visited that location. There's a lot of insight that we can get from that. And one interesting aspect is you can, I want to get to where we can, you can heat map and see where most of the people congregate. And I think we've got to figure out how to best utilize that, especially in the expansion. I think there are some opportunities there for small business like location, that we can utilize that. And I would like to see us use that when that expansion happens. I know y'all just kicked off a program with the Small Business Development Center. And so we would be glad to help any small business in those efforts. And, you know, trying to see what current foot traffic is, what it needs to be, and what we think it might be.
Transportation is a conversation we're going to have as well. So if we can find the transportation, work with East Alabama, someone else, transportation is going to be key, getting people to and from places. So just like we do for the Fat Tire Fest, doing the Fat Tire Fest, they actually rent our vans and pay our personnel to transport the people to and from the places they need to go. So transportation is something we're going to have to eventually look at. How do we get these people to this nice place? Maybe we'll get someone to figure this transportation out piece as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, we'll move forward to item number 4, zoning ordinance amendment. That's amending section 7.17 tobacco shop regulations of the City of Anniston zoning ordinance to include tobacco products, CBD oil, electronic liquid-based smoking or vaping products, in which by law persons under the age of 21 are prohibited from entry. Mr. Phillips?
Yes, I want to have Jason explain this. I've heard from council members, the vape shops continue to pop up, and we got quite a few, and they continue to be getting those things, and it's becoming saturated. And just like we did for the payday loans, Jason's got an idea on how we can do this. Keep in mind, we already got more than we need, but how do we put something in place to ensure we don't keep popping up and become a stack up on top of each other. So Jason, this is Jason's idea, so I'll let him act on. So we have to do some tweaking to our zoning ordinance and other things. But I just bring it before the council because this has been brought to my attention.
Well, first of all, I don't want to take all the credit. This is a collaboration. Mr. Wright did most of the work, but this just stems from y'all requesting and from public comments and things like that about wanting to limit how many of these, just like we did with the payday loans in the city. We use the same template, same format, just put it to the vape shops. It does not affect convenience stores and things like that. They don't fall into the same category. But the shops that just specialize in tobacco and vape and those specialty products like that, we're looking at.
Good on that, any discussion?
So what, some of these convenience stores are starting to set up different areas. And is it a certain limit we're going to look at of how much they sell, kind of, something like this? Not all aspects of food.
So that falls under the category of how they obtain that tobacco license through the state. So if they do it under the premise of a convenience store, then it's hard to limit.
one limited based on population, and proximity to one another, correct?
Yes.
Those are the two limiting factors we used on the alternative financial institutions.
Do we know how many vape shops we have presently?
I think we've got 12 currently. We got 2 that are in the works that have talked about trying to acquire locations. So we would already be outside of the limit of what the number will allow us to have. So we would have to have several closed before we want to go.
And the ones that are already existing, would,
They
they're,
just,
They just exist until they.
they don't.
when they change ownership, they just go away until you get to that number. We had, to put in perspective on those lending institutions, we had 19 of them when we passed that ordinance, and we're down to like 11 now or something like that. So, I mean, they were on every corner. It was terrible.
It gives a very bad image of our town to preying on the unfortunate people. But we still have a lot of them. As Jay said, we have 11 now, which
I
is
think 9 is the number that we ultimately, with our population. And we're following the same module, we without that on the vape shops too, so, or whatever they are.
So the sooner we put this in place, then we can start this, so, again, like I said, there's 2 more, so the sooner we put this in place, then we can, that's the number that we can start getting. So, if the council's good, we'll bring it for you to next meeting.
Can we do it tonight?
Yeah.
No, we can't, we're gonna have to vote.
This is a process with something.
Oh, okay.
So the next meeting,
And that's what we'll,
Yes, so it's gonna be, at the next council meeting, there will be a public hearing during the council meeting on this topic. And then from what I'm being told, as soon as that public hearing is closed, y'all have the right to vote on it.
Thank you.
Is that correct?
Yeah, you can suspend the rules.
all right, we'll move on to item number 5 is, some discussions around re-roofing and the addition to Michael.
yes, the bid came in, just recently came in, and it came in, we had 300,000 that was budgeted for that. But the lowest bid came in at 394,000, and that we have figured out a way with the financial funding for this, and we're not going to bring it to the council to the next meeting, so I wanted to verify and vet everything. But we have the money coming, Parks and Recreation, from projects that they have come on the budget, and we have found the funding to actually make this happen for that bathroom out at the Michael Park, if it needs to happen. So we've had the funding, we don't have to go back to the reserves or anything else, but we found the funding within Parks and Recreation, so we've been verified for funding. So I just want to brief you all on that, we'll bring it back, the bid back to you all for approval at the next meeting.
Sounds good. We have some city manager updates. You wanna?
Just a couple of, again, the biggest thing is, again, if you saw it in the Calhoun County Commission's tax revenue office, had an audit, and there was a reimbursement to the city of Anniston for $454,069.28. That money has already been put into our reserves, but it's there. Money that's not committed to anything. And the reason for the oversight, I just want to make sure that there was a software glitch that did not catch this, and it caught at the time. That was 5 years that we had to go back and pay us taxes back from 5 years. But it was because of the software glitch. But that's what we got reimbursed back. So it's been placed in it's not attached to anything. That's my first question. It's not school tax, anything else. It's just money from an alcohol tax that's been brought back just because it's already drawing interest. I want to pass that down. So council just brought something up the last time. I want to make sure when we talked about trees the last time, what I had Public Works to do is actually go back, because keep in mind, this is what we were talking about, how the replace those trees with this is the first phase to get an assessment. They have done the assessment, the group has finished with the assessment, our plot group that is doing the landscape consultants that are doing this for us. These are the trees, and these are the trees where they're located by block, what block it's on. It tells you what's wrong with the trees and type of tree. These are the things, so what we need to do before we go to the next phase of how do we replace these trees, we have to have these removed. So just want to council, these are the numbers, we only talked about 3 last time, but these are the numbers, this was wrong with them. And keep in mind, looking at what's wrong with them, sometimes, right now, those fees are dangerous and we need to get them down before they fall on something breaks off from them. So these are the numbers, this is the final number. I just didn't want to keep piecemealing this to y'all. I want to give you the time, what the cause is, where they're located, and it has to happen. Keep in mind, we've already, the next phase that we're coming with is the next year, the Lord's willing, that's when they come back and say, this is what we need to do to replace the street. This is what it is. And then the following 3 years, then that's when implementation will come in about the street replacement. This is what the council asked for, this was put into. We have professionals doing this, so these trees need to be removed. And I want to make sure that these are the ones that I want to have Jackson go around our location, putting these out so everybody will know what's coming on, so we make sure the public knows what's going on and understand that there's a plan in place to actually how we're going to replace these and do those things.
Can I ask if we can do additional research on the one at the Willow Oak on 7th and 8th? It says huge tree sounds hollow at base. Can we at least, I know they've got methodologies in place. I hate to take down a huge tree to find out that it sounded hollow, but it wasn't.
Okay.
You know, the rest of them all have valid reasons, from what I can see, to remove, but can we at least check that one? Make sure?
7 and 8.
That's a very good point, Jay. People get really upset when they see trees come back.
Yeah, and this is a big one, and
Yeah.
it may have a hollow spot in it, but it may have, 15 inches of meat before you get to that hollow core. And is it imperative that we take it down today, or, are there steps we can take to? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd just like for us to exhaust that, at least on that one.
Okay. And I'll report back to council before we do anything with that.
And I also wonder about the one that says between 10th and 11th, number 9, multiple termite tubes, significant decay suspected, removal recommended. Is this from an arborist? Is an arborist looked at?
Yes, ma'am, Mr. Arborist, and if you go inside your packet, the name of the arborist, the phone number and everything are located in your packet as well.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if anything can be done about termites, or is this significant decay suspected?
But I'll have further research those as well and give more back to you.
Okay.
So those two are, any others?
Any more discussion?
Just keep in mind that you've been given your audit report of the audit that's been completed, or you can take it, give you a chance to peruse it, and then we will actively on the next work session if you have any questions, anything for the next question, next one. Other than that, that's all I have.
Sounds good. Council discussion? All right,